Welcome back, everyone, to Jazz on Sports. I'm your host, Jasmine Pollock, and today we're going to get into that Alabama and Georgia game that we all witnessed on Saturday. But before I get started, I want to make sure everyone is subscribed to my YouTube channel, which is Jazz on Sports. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's going to be at JazzyS. We're going to be talking about a lot of things in sports, especially wrapping up a lot of things throughout the week. Last week, we dealt with a hurricane down here in Florida, and I hope everyone in the path is okay and safe. I pray for everyone, and I hope that everyone is able to get the much-needed help that they need. So make sure to support everyone in that capacity. But let's get into this game. Now, everyone knows I'm a Gators fan. We had a bye week, so I had to find a game to watch, and this is one of the most, if not the most, anticipated game between Alabama and Georgia. Very big matchup in the SEC, has very big implications towards the college football playoff, because we all know that the college football playoff now is 12 games. It's a 12 bracket system now. So we're just going to see how these two teams matched up. These two teams have a lot of history. However, Alabama has been on the winning side when they have a record against Georgia 9-1. And the only game that Georgia won was when Jamison Williams, which we all know is with the Detroit Lions, got injured. So that was a big deal. So in this game, Alabama came out to a roaring start. I mean, they dominated that first half in that game. And let's be specific. 30-7 heading into halftime. That is how dominant that the Alabama Crimson Tide was playing in Tuscaloosa. Georgia had no answers. They got, that late touchdown and things of that nature, but they had no answers for Alabama. But a tale of two halves. In the second half, Georgia became revitalized. They really got into they got their bearings together, and they got their offense clicking. Defense started tightening up. Jalen Milroe was running all over them in the first half, but they only held Alabama in that game in the second half to 90 yards compared to the first half. And when we look at it, Georgia stormed back and even taken the lead, which was it was their largest comeback in their franchise history. But that's not even the play we're talking about here. Jalen Milroe, they were dead in the water. Alabama's offense had no answers. They're losing the game at this point. The fans are stunned because Georgia came back. But Jalen Milroe didn't care because he has a 17-year-old receiver named Ryan Williams, 17 years old. And we saw that 65-yard bomb. We saw that play, and it was a bomb. Kid adjusts himself. I'm talking about Williams. Catches the pass. Not only catches the pass, two defenders. This is the best defense in the country, by the way. Two defenders, the corner and the safety. He juked both of them and got the touchdown. And when we look at that play, watching that play real time, I have never seen a play like that in my entire life. In that way, where he had control, he stayed in bounds. He literally turned his body. First of all, how he caught the ball, he had to adjust because Milroe did underthrow the ball a little bit, but Williams adjusted. Not only adjusted, but completely turned his body around and made the two defenders run into each other. I have never seen that before. And then you get to the end zone and you score a touchdown. That is just crazy. And not only that, to make it more disrespectful, as he's running into the end zone, he takes his mouthpiece off because he didn't need it anymore. I mean, that just showed to me what he could be. Like we saw in that game alone, and let's look at some of his stats, because in this game alone, he was able to make a name for himself. He wasn't even a starter. He was on the practice squad. He had to earn his stripes. He wasn't even in the conversation. This kid has 6 receptions, 177 yards, and every reception he received was 29.5 yards. And the touchdown reception, which was that spectacular play in order to get Alabama the game-winning drive for Alabama, even though they sealed it with the interception by their other rookie cornerback, or not rookie cornerback, their freshman cornerback in the end zone against Georgia. But when we look at it, that game to me was one of the best games you have ever seen, especially in college. And you can make the case. A lot of people I've seen on Twitter saying that college football is better than the NFL. I'm not going to go as far as saying that, but college football is so exciting. There's so many things that can happen, so many things that, could you wouldn't think a play like that would happen. You think Georgia stormed back in this game and they took the lead. They came back from that deficit in that way and completely shut the offense down for Alabama. Jalen Milroe couldn't get those bootlegs, those running plays that he normally gets. And here goes, Milroe and Williams came in clutch at the end. Yeah, that's Jeremiah. That's my fiance. Milroe and Williams came in clutch at the end. They deserved to win that game. Williams became a household name after the game. He sure did. I mean, you had 6 receptions for 177 yards. And he was juking the whole game. He was making acrobatic catches, making acrobatic plays and things like that. So he's been doing that the whole game. But in that moment on the biggest stage of your young life, you do that against the number 1 defense, a team that was dominant, the number 2 team in the country, formerly the number 1, back-to-back champions. Georgia has Kirby Smart, who was the former defensive coordinator for Alabama, and you do that in that stage in your building is just ridiculous. And at 17 years old, I mean, wow, like it's just crazy. And if he's going to be their number 1. Now he has earned his stripes. Now Jalen Milroe has that number 1 guy, even though they have a lot of receivers on this team. Alabama is known for having a multitude of talented receivers, but that I have never seen that before from him, from a kid like that. In that moment, you single-handedly did that yourself. Milroe got the pass off 100%, but you did all of that yourself with 2 defenders in your area. It was sensational, and that was one of the best college football games I've ever seen. And let's not take away what Georgia did. And I'm a Gators fan saying this, which is disgusting, but let's not take away what Georgia did in the second half. Carson Beck went off. They went off in that second half. And to storm back the way they did, to get out of that deficit, showed that championship mentality, that veteranism that they had in order to stay in the game and stay with the course and continue. They were throwing haymakers after haymaker. I mean, bomb after bomb. Carson Beck was just throwing it up down the field, and they just stormed back. But Jalen Milroe, when it counted, he got the job done in his building. You're not coming back in my building. And they made it happen. But this is not the last time we're going to see them 100%. I do have Alabama winning the West. Obviously, we have Texas over there. You have Ole Miss, but Ole Miss laid an egg against Kentucky on Saturday. So when we look at how these teams are matching up, I would not be shocked if we see Alabama and Georgia in that SEC championship game, barring if Texas falls off. Because we all know Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC now. So when we look at that, Texas is still there. But if Alabama plays like that and they have a bona fide receiver and Jalen Milroe is still doing what he's doing, they're going to be that team to reckon with. And Alabama's a storied school. They're a storied franchise in football. So, of course, they're going to be in the mix, and I'm really excited to see how this all pans out. As for Georgia, they only dropped the 5. I didn't think that they should have dropped completely out of the top 10. They're still a top 5 team. They had a slow start. But one team to definitely watch in the SEC is the University of Kentucky. They battled Georgia last week, even though they lost, but they battled Georgia last week. Then you go on the road to beat a top 10 Ole Miss team. You beat them. So this Kentucky team is another team to watch out for that people should be concerned about, because they do have a solid defense. They can throw the ball, they can run the ball, and they have Bob Stoops is a very good coach. We've seen time and time again what they were able to do throughout the course of the year. And, of course, you still have Tennessee in the loop. They're in the top 5. But Kentucky is that dark horse team that you need to watch in the SEC for sure. So, everybody, that was a great game. I would love to hear everyone's thoughts of their opinions about that Georgia and Alabama game. That was one of the best games I have ever seen in college football in a very long time. Even though it looked as if Alabama was going to run away with it, and they did for a while, but Georgia stuck in there. They stormed back to take the lead, but Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams did the job, and I'm really excited to see what they're going to be as the season progresses. They're going to be a problem. He was graded the number 1 most impressive rookie/freshman in this past week, so he has every right to be that. Their cornerback who made that game-sealing interception, He was also in the top 5 as one of the top freshmen to watch. So the freshmen really stepped up for Alabama on Saturday, and shout out to them for doing what they did. But Ryan Williams, kid, you are spectacular, and what you did single-handedly was spectacular. But that wraps up today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you all for your constant support of Jazz on Sports. We're going to continue to rock it out and continue to build this brand. Thank you, Jay, for the production. Thank you to the Leon Thomas Group for continuing to give their support and helping me out with a lot of different ventures and endeavors. We will see you next week, maybe this week, because you never know. I could do some surprising audios and things of that nature, but there's a lot to talk about in sports, and we are really excited to see where everything is headed. That wraps up the show. Thank you all next time, and see you next time.